Every empire believes it is different. Every superpower believes the rules of history do not apply to them. And every nation, at one point or another, whispers the same quiet lie to itself. This time, we can control the inflation. But history tells a different story. It tells us that inflation is not merely an economic event. It is a cycle, a trap, a sequence of steps that empires follow with eerie consistency, from ancient Rome to the French monarchy, to Weimar Germany, and now most disturbingly, the United States. Inflation doesn't start with panic. It doesn't begin with riots or markets collapsing or currencies burning into worthlessness. It begins quietly, almost invisibly. A slow rise in debt, a gradual expansion of the money supply, a subtle shift in the cost of living, a gentle erosion of trust. The inflation trap begins not with chaos, but with calm. And that is why it is so dangerous. For thousands of years, collapsing empires have followed a predictable pattern, a 7-step cycle that repeats across history with breathtaking accuracy. Step 1. Debt grows faster than revenue. Step 2. Governments debase or print currency to fill the gap. Step 3. Prices rise, wages lag, confidence weakens. Step 4. The confidence break the moment an empire loses control. Step 5. Panic. Inflation accelerates beyond the government's reach. Step 6. Currency failure, default, hyperinflation, or replacement. Step 7. Reset. A new financial system rises from the ruins. Every empire on record has reached Step 4. None have escaped it. And today, the United States finds itself standing at the doorway of that same irreversible stage. But to understand why Step 4 is so fatal, to understand why no empire has ever survived it, we must travel back in time, to where the inflation trap was written in stone, Rome. Where the cycle began long before stock markets, central banks, or digital currencies. Rome was the most powerful economic force the world had ever seen. Its borders stretched across continents. Its currency, the silver denarius, was trusted from Britain to Syria. Its wealth seemed infinite. But Rome suffered a problem every superpower eventually confronts. Its expenses grew larger than its income. Massive armies, rising bureaucracy, expensive wars, public projects that demanded constant funding. Taxes couldn't rise fast enough. Revenue couldn't keep up. And so Rome made the same decision modern governments make today. It began debasing its currency. The silver in the denarius was gradually reduced, from nearly pure silver to half to 1/3, until eventually the coin contained almost none at all. At first it worked. Rome printed more coins. Soldiers were paid. Projects continued. Life went on. This is the quiet part of the inflation trap. The part that convinces governments they are in control. The part where nothing seems wrong. But beneath the surface, trust began to erode. Merchants noticed the coins felt lighter. Farmers realized the silver content was shrinking. Prices rose, slowly at first, then quickly. People stopped saving. They hoarded gold instead of spending. They avoided taxes. They traded privately to escape the government's reach. This, not the wars, not the invasions, was Rome's true moment of collapse. Rome entered Step 4 when confidence broke. Not with swords, but with silver. Once the Roman people understood the currency was no longer stable, the economy fractured. Trade slowed, prices surged, and the panic phase began. Rome never recovered from the confidence break, not even once. Within a single lifetime, the world's greatest currency became worthless. France, paper money, and the revolution. More than 1,000 years later, France repeated Rome's mistakes almost perfectly. The monarchy was drowning in debt. Wars, palaces, and decades of overspending pushed the nation toward financial ruin. To escape the crisis, France introduced something new for its time: paper money, the assignat, backed by the value of national land. Just like Rome's debased coinage, the first wave worked. Confidence rose, the economy breathed again. Debts were paid. But the government soon realized something dangerous. It could print these new notes endlessly. And so it did. Prices rose, then exploded. The assignat collapsed. Farmers refused it. Markets rejected it. People demanded gold. Confidence shattered. France entered step 4, and within years the monarchy fell, the currency died, and the nation was transformed forever. France's collapse wasn't an anomaly. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a unique catastrophe caused by unusual circumstances. It was simply the next empire to step into a trap every nation eventually walks into. And the next empire after France would experience something even more explosive, Weimar. When inflation devours a nation, Germany's fall into hyperinflation is often told as a story of printing gone wild. Money printed in wheelbarrows. Banknotes burned for heat because they were cheaper than firewood. Children playing with stacks of currency worth less than toys. But hyperinflation doesn't begin with chaos. It begins quietly. Just like Rome, just like France, with a government drowning in debt. Crushed by war reparations and economic strain, Germany did exactly what France did and what Rome had done centuries before. It printed. At first, printing felt like a miracle. Shortages eased, businesses reopened. Unemployment fell. The government believed it had found the perfect solution. But printing has a characteristic that every empire misunderstands. You can start printing when you want, but you cannot stop when you need. The moment a government becomes dependent on printed money, the trap closes. Germany printed more, and more and more. But it wasn't the printing alone that triggered the hyperinflation. It was the loss of trust. The moment when German citizens realized money was losing value faster than the government could defend it. People rushed to convert cash into goods. Shops raised prices constantly. Workers demanded to be paid twice a day. Money was no longer a tool for saving. It was a burning matchstick you had to use before it burned your hand. This was the Weimar Step 4 moment. The same moment Rome experienced when silver vanished from its coins. The same moment France experienced when farmers refused paper assignats, the confidence break. From that moment forward, collapse was not a possibility. It was an inevitability. Once velocity accelerates, once people spend faster because they trust less, no government has ever reversed inflation. Weimar Germany printed trillion-mark notes. Prices doubled every day. Families' life savings evaporated overnight. The financial system collapsed so thoroughly that a new currency had to be introduced from scratch. But here's the part almost no one understands. Weimar did not collapse because it printed too much. It collapsed because confidence died. And once trust in money vaporizes, history shows collapse follows rapidly. 3 empires, one unbreakable pattern: Rome, France, Weimar. 3 civilizations separated by thousands of years. 3 different currencies, 3 different governments, 3 different economic structures, and yet their collapse timelines are almost identical. When historians overlay their inflation charts, something remarkable appears. They follow the same 7-step cycle. Let's map them side by side. Step 1, debt rises uncontrollably. Rome, armies stretch the treasury. France, monarchy overspent for decades. Weimar, reparations and war costs exploded. Step 2, currency is weakened or printed. Rome clipped silver. France issued paper money. Weimar flooded the economy with marks. Step 3, prices rise, confidence slips, Rome's markets inflated. France's bread prices surged. Weimar saw daily inflation. Step 4, confidence breaks. Merchants reject currency. Citizens flee to assets. Velocity accelerates. Step 5, panic phase. People buy anything of value. Savings evaporate. Governments lose control. Step 6, currency destruction. Rome's denarius collapses. France's assignat dies. Weimar's mark becomes worthless. Step 7, reset. Rome reforms, too late. France enters revolution. Weimar creates a new currency. Three empires, three collapses, one pattern. This is the inflation trap, a repeating historical cycle no nation has ever escaped. And now, for the fourth time in history, another superpower is tracing those same steps. The US is entering the same cycle. This is where the story shifts from history to the present. Because the numbers, the behavior, and the psychology we are seeing today in the United States mirror Rome, France, and Weimar with eerie precision. Debt rising faster than revenue, currency expansion at record speed, prices climbing since 2020, foreign holders reducing exposure to the dollar, consumers losing trust in purchasing power, and economic actors, from households to institutions, behaving exactly as they did before past collapses hit step 4. This is not a prediction. This is not speculation. This is the same historical cycle, repeating again. And whether anyone realizes it or not, the US is now crossing into the stage no empire has returned from. The confidence break. In part 3, we dive directly into the modern American indicators, the exact signs that show step 4 is already unfolding, and why the stage is silent, subtle, and almost invisible. For most people, inflation is just a number they hear on the news, a statistic, a percentage, a political talking point. But for empires, inflation is a psychological event, a transformation of belief, a shift so subtle and slow that nations rarely see it happening, until the moment it becomes unstoppable. This moment is step 4, the point where confidence breaks. Rome felt it when citizens refused debased silver. France felt it when the assignat became worthless paper. Weimar felt it when money lost value by the hour. And today, the United States is showing the exact same warning signs, not in dramatic headlines, not in panicked crowds, not in collapsing banks, at least not yet, but in behavior, in the fabric of daily economic life, in the silent collective intuition of millions of people. Because step 4 doesn't begin with panic. It begins with a quieter question. Will my money be worth the same next year? History tells us that once enough people start asking that question, you've already entered the danger zone. The economic signals of step 4 in America. Let's break down the markers that show the US is entering the same phase that doomed Rome, France, and Weimar. 1. Money creation at historic speed. In just a few years, the US expanded its money supply faster than at any point in its history. Not during the Civil War, not during World War II, not during 2008, never. This is the classic step 3 precursor, the stage where governments create so much new currency that prices can no longer remain stable. 2. Record debt levels that cannot be reversed. Rome debased its currency because it couldn't fund its army. France printed assignats because its monarchy was drowning in debt. Weimar printed money to pay reparations and survive. The US debt structure is following the same logic. Printing, borrowing, and deficit spending are no longer optional. They're required to keep the system functioning. Once an empire requires money creation to survive, the exit door from inflation quietly closes. 3. Declining trust in long-term savings. People once trusted savings accounts. They trusted dollars, they trusted the future. But today, the average household increasingly chooses gold, real estate stocks, commodities, anything that can't be printed. This shift mirrors Rome's hoarding of gold, France's flight into assets, and Weimar's frantic purchasing of goods. It isn't panic yet. It's the pre-panic stage. The early psychological transition of step 4. Foreign holders losing confidence. Another universal step 4. An indicator appears when foreign nations reduce exposure to an empire's currency. This happened to Rome, this happened to France, this happened to Weimar. And today, major economic blocs, from Asia to the Middle East, are reducing their holdings of US debt. Not dumping it, not selling all at once, just slowly, quietly diversifying away. This is exactly how the confidence break begins. The silence of step 4. Step 4 is often misunderstood. People imagine chaos, exploding prices, collapsing banks, riots, hyperinflation, but those events come later in step 5. Step 4 is different. Step 4 is the moment where the currency still functions, but the trust behind it begins to fracture. People still use dollars. They still buy groceries, businesses still operate, markets still rise and fall. But beneath the surface, behavior is shifting. Consumers spend faster. People buy before prices rise. Households avoid holding too much cash. Long-term fixed income looks unattractive. Real assets become more desirable. Safe bonds no longer feel safe. The system becomes subtly more fragile. Step 4 is the moment when the currency's future becomes uncertain and people act accordingly. Rome felt this moment. France felt this moment. Weimar felt this moment. The US is feeling it now. The triggers that push step 4 into step 5, every empire crosses step 4 quietly. But the transition into step 5, the panic phase, always comes through a sudden trigger. It could be a debt crisis, a geopolitical shock, a banking freeze, rapid rise in commodity prices, a loss of foreign credit, a political crisis, a confidence shock. Rome's trigger was war and tax collapse. France's was food shortages and civil unrest. Weimar's was reparations and political instability, and the US does not yet know what its trigger will be. But history suggests it is likely to come from one of 3 areas. 1 is treasury markets freezing or losing liquidity even briefly. 2, a major external event that pressures global trade or oil. Historically, one of the fastest paths to inflation. 3, a loss of trust in banking or government stability. The most psychologically damaging scenario. Step 4 is calm. Step 5 is chaos. And the transition between them is always sudden. America's position in the pattern. Look at Rome, look at France, look at Weimar. And now, the US stands at the same crossroads. In part 4, we explore the final stages of the cycle, the panic phase, the currency fallout, and the reset that emerges afterward. And most importantly, what history says comes next. Step 4, the confidence break, is the invisible turning point. It's the moment where the currency still functions, but its foundation begins to crack. Step 5 is where those cracks widen into fractures. And step 6 is where the world witnesses what history has tried to warn us about for thousands of years. To understand what comes next, for America, for the dollar, for the global financial system, we must examine the final stages of the inflation trap, the stages no empire has ever escaped. The panic phase. Step 5. The panic phase is not a gradual shift. It is not a slow trend. It is not something people feel over months or years. Instead, it begins with a single moment, a trigger, and spreads like fire through dry grass. Rome's panic began with collapsing tax revenues and a military that could no longer be paid. France's began when bread prices exploded overnight. Weimar's began when workers demanded their wages twice a day. The United States will face a trigger of its own. Nobody knows the exact form, but history tells us the psychological reaction will be identical. Because once a population realizes their currency is losing stability, their behavior shifts instantly. You see, people rushing to secure goods, investors dumping bonds, institutions scrambling for liquidity, foreign holders selling the currency markets, swinging violently, central banks intervening desperately, volatility exploding, and the public beginning to panic. This isn't speculation. This is the universal pattern of step 5. In this phase, inflation accelerates not because of printing alone, but because fear becomes the dominant economic force. Velocity. How fast money moves emerges. Every empire in history saw this same shift. People spend faster, prices rise faster, and the currency weakens faster. This feedback loop is unstoppable. Even when governments intervene, even when central banks act, the panic has its own momentum. And history shows something else. Government actions during step 5 often accelerate the panic instead of calming it. Rome raised taxes, and collapse sped up. France printed more assignats, and inflation doubled. Weimar introduced wage controls, and velocity exploded. America is not immune to these forces. No nation is. When Step 5 begins, all the illusions vanish at once, the collapse. Step 6. Step 6 is the stage every empire fears most: currency destruction. This does not always mean hyperinflation. Sometimes it means a sudden devaluation, a forced restructuring, a loss of global reserve status, a market freeze, a rapid decline in purchasing power, or the introduction of a new currency system. Rome saw its currency lose all meaning and eventually replaced it. France abandoned the assignat and issued entirely new money. Weimar created the Rentenmark after its currency collapsed into dust. In modern terms, Step 6 could take many forms: a new digital dollar, a global reserve shift, emergency capital controls, government-backed asset freezes, a forced debt restructuring, or a sweeping monetary reset. The exact shape doesn't matter. The pattern does, because every empire that enters Step 6 undergoes the same transformation. The old system dies. A new one takes its place. The reset is not optional. It is the final stage of the inflation trap, the point at which an exhausted currency system collapses under its own weight, and a successor rises to replace it. And this brings us to the final stage, the reset. Step 7. When people hear the word reset, they imagine collapse, destruction, chaos. But history tells a more complex story. Rome did not vanish. It restructured, reformed, and evolved. France did not disappear. It transitioned into new political systems. Weimar did not end Germany. It forced the creation of a financial system that eventually helped rebuild the nation. Resets are not endings. They are transitions. Painful transitions, violent transitions, but transitions nonetheless. Step 7 is where the world rebuilds itself, where the financial architecture of the past gives way to the architecture of the future. And whether that future is a digital monetary system, multi-reserve global order, a commodity-backed framework, a decentralized hybrid model, or an AI-managed financial structure, the pattern remains unchanged. The inflation trap ends not with collapse, but with transformation. The final message: history's warning. Every empire believes it is exceptional. Every empire believes it can defy gravity. Every empire believes it is immune to the laws that govern those before it. Rome believed it. France believed it. Weimar believed it. And today, America believes it too. But the numbers don't lie. The behavior doesn't lie. History doesn't lie. The US is moving through the same inflation cycle that consumed ancient Rome, that ignited the French Revolution, and that destroyed Weimar Germany's currency in a matter of months. The same 7 steps, the same psychological breaks, the same pattern. Step 4 has begun. Step 5 is the danger zone. Step 6 reshapes the world, and Step 7 builds whatever comes next. The inflation trap is not a prophecy. It is a pattern, a rhythm of history that repeats with perfect precision. And now, the same rhythm is echoing once again. What happens next is already written in the past, and the past is no longer history. It is a warning from every empire that ever thought it could escape, a warning from every nation that reached Step 4 and never made it back.